He's married, and he told you he's unhappy, not with you, but with the woman he chose, the life he built, the commitment he once called forever. And now, he looks you in the eyes and lets it slip. I'm not happy. What do you do with that? Because something inside you shifts. You weren't expecting it. You weren't asking for it. But now you're holding his truth in your hands. And it feels dangerous. It feels intimate. It feels like the beginning of something that could burn everything down. He told you something he hasn't told anyone, or at least, not like this. Not with this look in his eyes. Not with this weight in his voice. And you begin to feel special. You feel chosen. You feel seen. But slow down. Because what feels sacred can also be a projection. And what sounds like trust can sometimes be a transfer of pain. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And this is one of those moments, when a married man tells you he's unhappy, it's easy to believe it's about you, that you're the reason he's waking up, that your presence is the shift he needed, that the connection between you is what made him finally admit what he's been denying for years. And maybe you did wake something up in him, but that doesn't mean he's ready to rise. It doesn't mean he's prepared to act. It doesn't mean he sees you clearly. It means he feels something, and that something is confusing him just as much as it's confusing you. The truth is, he may not be unhappy with her. He may be unhappy with himself, with the version of him that got buried under responsibility, with the identity he created to survive but never fully inhabited. And now, standing in front of you, he remembers something wild, something alive, something free. And that version of him, the one he silenced, stirs in your presence. But here's the question. What happens when he confesses his unhappiness, but keeps living the same life? What happens when his words are full of truth, but his actions remain wrapped in fear? You become the space where he unloads, the mirror where he sees who he could have been, the pause in his routine, the fire he misses. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse this with destiny. You'll tell yourself that it must mean something, that if he opened up to you, it's a sign, that maybe love is starting here. But that's the most dangerous lie of all, because his confession is not always a beginning. Sometimes, it's a substitute for growth. He tells you he's unhappy because he doesn't know what else to do with the ache inside him, and you feel it so deeply because you've had your own ache too, one that longs to be seen, one that aches to matter. Carl Jung spoke often about projection, how we meet ourselves through others, how the soul recognizes what the ego has forgotten, and that's what might be happening here. He sees in you the part of him he forgot, the light, the energy, the passion, and in return you feel seen, not for what you give, but for who you are. That exchange is powerful, but power is not love, intensity is not devotion, and confession is not commitment. If he's unhappy in his marriage, but chooses to stay, that is his decision. And if you let your heart wait on a man who is unwilling to change, you are tying your worth to someone else's stagnation. You are not a waiting room. You are not a temporary cure. You are not his emotional vacation. You are a soul with a path, a woman with a depth that deserves to be honored, not with words, but with action. So the next time a man tells you he's unhappy, ask yourself this: is he telling me this because he's ready to live differently? Or is he telling me this because I feel safe and he doesn't know where else to place his restlessness? You can hold space for someone without holding their future. You can care deeply without surrendering your boundaries. You can be present without being responsible. Because when a man opens up, it does feel real. But it only becomes real when it is followed by movement, by change, by clarity. He may want you to hear his pain, but that doesn't mean he's ready to heal it. He may long for you to see him, but that doesn't mean he's ready to see himself. This is where your discernment must become louder than your desire, because desire will whisper stories into your heart. But discernment tells you the truth. The truth is, some men speak of their unhappiness as a way to feel seen, but not as a path to change. They borrow your emotional energy to feel alive again, but leave you empty when they return to a life they're too afraid to confront. You are not here to be emptied. You are not here to be borrowed. You are not here to be a beautiful interruption. You are here to be fully loved, chosen, honored, not after his clarity, but as part of it. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So don't let this become your fate. Don't call his confusion a sign. Don't build hope on the back of someone else's indecision. Let his words be what they are, a reflection of his own internal fracture, a glimpse into the parts of him that he hasn't faced. But don't let that fracture break you too. You didn't come this far to become someone's secret clarity. You didn't grow just to become the background to someone else's marriage. You didn't heal just to be the soft place a man collapses into when he refuses to rise in his own life. So yes, he told you he's unhappy. Let that land. Let it be real. Let it echo in your mind. But let it stay where it belongs, with him, because unless he takes action, unless he steps into integrity, unless he chooses to change, those words are not the start of a new story. They are the echo of an old one. And you are not here to echo. You are here to rise. If this message is reaching you now, it's not by accident. Most people repeat emotional patterns they don't understand. The Jung Method helps you uncover the unconscious energy shaping your relationships. The link is pinned in the first comment. Now breathe. He told you he was unhappy, and you believed him. Not because you're naive, but because you saw the pain behind his words. Because something in you resonated with the way he described his silence. Because a part of you knows what it's like to be in something that looks stable but feels hollow. You felt for him, and maybe, somewhere inside, you felt with him. As if his admission gave you permission to explore your own unmet needs, your own loneliness, your own longing. But what happens when that emotional opening doesn't lead to change? What happens when his truth remains a moment, not a movement? You start to feel the weight, not just of his sadness, but of yours. At first it felt special, to be trusted, to be the one who could see what others missed. But slowly, the feeling shifts. You start to feel responsible. You start to carry both of your hearts. And that is not love. That is emotional labor disguised as intimacy. Carl Jung taught that the psyche hides what it cannot face. And when someone feels unseen in their own life, they often search for a mirror to show them who they could be. That mirror becomes a person, and that person becomes the place where all their lost fire, their forgotten desire, their spiritual ache lands. That mirror was you. You became the evidence that he still had life inside him, that something was still possible. But possibility without action is a form of cruelty, because it makes you believe there's something growing, when in truth, it's just circling. He told you he was unhappy, and he meant it. But meaning something isn't the same as doing something. Feeling something isn't the same as being ready. You can feel deeply and still be paralyzed by fear. You can desire change and still refuse to make it. So here you are, sitting with words that echo through your chest, trying to understand what they meant, what they say about you, what they say about him. Here's what they say. They say he trusted you with something he doesn't fully trust himself with. They say he saw your clarity and hoped it would help him find his own. They say he wanted relief more than responsibility. And that's not your failure. That's his. Because emotional honesty only becomes sacred when it is met with accountability. When someone tells you they're unhappy and then acts in integrity to change it, that is growth. That is soul. That is truth. But when someone tells you they're unhappy and then retreats, when they speak their truth and return to their lies, what you're witnessing is not clarity. It's collapse. And you must not collapse with them. You must not become the place where they pour their sadness without offering stability, without bringing courage, without choosing truth, because it is seductive, isn't it? To be the one who understands, to be the soft space, to be the escape from someone else's suffocating world. But if you become his air, he will forget to breathe on his own, and you will become addicted to being needed, not chosen, not loved, but needed. That is not what your soul came here for. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." So many people avoid the work of self-acceptance by outsourcing their emotional hunger. They feed off attention, off sympathy, off passion, and then return to the very situations that keep them broken. If he returns to his marriage without confronting his unhappiness, if he keeps telling you he's not okay but makes no movement, he is not searching for love. He is searching for relief, and that will cost you your peace. Because being the woman he confides in will eventually hurt more than being the woman he avoids. Because you see it, you feel it, you hold space for it, and you still don't get chosen. That is soul starvation. And you are not here to starve. So what do you do with all of it? With the conversation, with the emotions it triggered, with the closeness you felt, with the belief that maybe, just maybe, it could mean something real. You honor it, and you release it. You don't shame yourself for feeling. You don't shame him for breaking, but you stop waiting. You stop romanticizing the possibility. You stop imagining a life he is too afraid to create. You stop investing in someone who is not investing in themselves. You ask yourself the deeper question: what part of me is attracted to someone unavailable? What part of me believes I have to wait to be loved? What part of me finds validation in being the one who understands the man no one else sees? This is the real healing, because you cannot change him, but you can reclaim yourself. You can return to your own breath, to your own soul, to your own longing, and meet it with truth. You can ask for a love that doesn't whisper between lines, but speaks directly, that doesn't hide behind circumstance, but shows up with clarity, that doesn't make you feel responsible for someone else's sadness, but invites you to co-create joy. That's the love you deserve, not the one that visits you in emotional fragments, but the one that holds you completely. So let him go, not because he didn't feel something real, but because he wasn't ready to rise with it, because his truth came without transformation. And that's not your burden. Let your own unhappiness speak now, not about him, but about the places in you that need light, the spaces where you've settled, the corners where you've accepted less, the habits of hope that keep you clinging to what drains you. Let your healing begin not by waiting for his return, but by walking away from the pattern of almost, the pattern of rescue, the pattern of emotional labor without reciprocity. You are not the whisper in someone else's story. You are the voice in your own. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and that begins now." You become the woman who doesn't chase clarity, she lives it, who doesn't beg for love, she radiates it, who doesn't try to fix the broken, she chooses the whole. He was a mirror, a moment, a message, not a destination. So let your feet move, let your heart open wider, let your spirit expand beyond the limits of someone else's fear. And when the right soul arrives, you'll know, because he won't just tell you he's unhappy where he is. He'll walk toward where he wants to be, and he'll ask you to walk beside him, not in hiding, not in confusion, but in truth. And this time, you'll be ready.